auction steps. We talked about driving properties, bidding, IRS liens, back taxes, like everything. We basically in the last 3 episodes have covered like everything you kind of want to know about foreclosures. So if you missed it, like I said, scroll down below on the Facebook page on one of the lives, or if you're watching on the YouTube channel, just jump over, like I said, episode 1, 2, and 3. Today we're going to get into excess proceeds, which is actually a business in the real estate business. Actually, post foreclosure, most people don't actually understand it or know about it, but if someone goes to foreclosure and they owe $200 on the house, but it's worth $350, and the house actually bids up, they're actually due the difference between, let's say, bid opened at $200,000, fold that bid, bids at $250. The owner of the property is due that money. So there's an entire business out there about finding this money and returning it to the previous owner. And there's ways to make money out of that and a little bit of money, and then there's ways to make a large chunk of money as well. So, John, let's just jump into that. And oh, by the way, if you're on the YouTube channel, hit the like button and subscribe, and always helps me out. So,
hit the like button. Yes,
hit the like button.
We like Chris.
So, John, you were talking about, I actually did quite a bit of excess proceeds, but you said you've done a little excess proceeds yourself. Kind of give us a little background on what that looked like and what you did.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. I stumbled on it with someone at my church. I wondered why this guy didn't call me. He knew what I did buying houses, and I saw his house fall at the auction go through, and I went, my gosh, why didn't this guy call me? And so a few weeks later, I went over, met him, and I said, it bid up above by a long shot, above what you were owed. Are you aware of that? And this was kind of the eye-opening part, what turned it into a business. He goes, well, I didn't know that. And he pulled out a drawer, Chris, just like he opened the drawer and had envelope after envelope in it. And I go, what's all that? And he goes, well, that's the mail. I just disregarded that. I knew I was losing my house. So we went through one of those pieces of information, and in there, the banks are required by law, on lost money and all the kind of things that we have to let you know that you have lost money or leftover money. So we opened up, and this guy had $17,000 of excess money. All he had to do was go to the county and follow a process to prove that he was entitled to that money. In other words, if there was a home equity loan for $15,000 and he had $17,000 left, the home equity loan people would go to the county, show them their debt, say, hey, we're next in line, but then he could go for the two. Well, there was no home equity loan, so I helped him go down and go through the process with the county recorder to prove that he actually was entitled to that money. And so there's a lot of people, I think, really, to be honest with you, is why it turned into a slight business for me and a couple of people I dealt with, that said people are running from houses. They're also not opening their mail, and they're not going down to the auction to see if we bought it or what happened.
Yeah, so not only that, a lot of people just leave the house thinking, oh, we're getting foreclosed on and we're driving off. The house is vacant a month before the foreclosure, right? So, yeah, so I actually ran an entire business on excess proceeds, and it used to be a really lucrative. And let me give you an idea of what this call, like instead of the cold call to, hey, I want to buy your house, like we all get, imagine the cold call to the owner, the previous owner of the home. Hey, I can get you $40,000. I can get you $50,000. It's a way different call than, hey, I want to buy your house. It's, do you know you have money that's actually owed to you and I can help you get it, right? So, I mean, that's everybody's. I mean, when you go to the swimsuit and you reach in and you find the 20, right? Because you went swimming, right, with the 20, right? You're like, oh, wow, it's $20. Imagine the cold call when you say, oh, you got $40,000 available to you. So
I was wondering what you were going to say when you reached into the swimsuit.
When I reached into the swimsuit, I mean, come on, we've all done it once.
I wonder what you're going to find. Yeah, $20. I like that.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, it's a different. So if a house goes to auction and they are due money, the trustee who auctioned it, if you go through a mortgage state, you're a mortgage state, and it goes through the court system, they deposit that with the county. So there are multiple ways to get it, and the we'll call it the non-lucrative way to get the money is you can let the people know and this is all if you're going to do the foreclosure business. If you're doing the pre-foreclosure business, we talked about, hey, do the foreclosure business at the steps. And if you're doing the foreclosure business at the steps, you might as well do this one too, because you got the information, you know the seller. You just say, hey, you're due 30 grand, 40 grand. But there's two processes. Number one is you can be their quote unquote agent and go say, hey, you're owed $30,000. Sign this one-page piece of paper. We will take care of it for you and for our services state by state. But Arizona will let you charge them $2,500. Then I would then just take that $2,500 or that piece of paper, shoot it over to an attorney that's going to handle it for you. I use Mark Zimmon. He basically fills all the paperwork out and quote unquote sues the county and gets you your $30,000. When he sends it back, he charges his fee. I don't know what his fee is. I'm sure it's around $1,000, $1,500. That fee comes out of their proceeds. Your $2,500 fee comes out of their proceeds, and the seller gets their money. Now, the most lucrative way, and let me know if you've done this, John, is to buy their proceeds or buy their. So you can actually, they're due the money, but you can buy or have them assign their rights to you. So they're due 40, maybe they're interested in 15 or 20 today, because this process takes about 6 months. So maybe they're interested in 20 today versus 40 in 6 months from now. And they can assign you their rights and you can buy their rights. So that's kind of the more lucrative way, because obviously if you can give someone 20 for today for 40 6 months from now, you got a 200% return, right? So
I did one like that, didn't know what I was doing, and got a notarized document. I guess it was an assignment, but I just represented them, attorney, kind of like an attorney in fact, and went in there, and I just had a side agreement with them on a 60-40 split, and they got the money, and I had to trust them. Obviously, I did, because they could have screwed me, but I got 40, they got 60, and it was 37,000 split 60-40. And I just got the ability to write what you just said.
Yes. So in the state of Arizona, you could take whatever you could negotiate. But sometimes it would, prior to the $2,500 law coming into place, you could take whatever you negotiate. You could be like, oh, you're due 100 grand. I can get it for you, but you owe me 30%. Well, the state of Arizona thought it was a little excessive for us to be taking 30 grand, 40 grand. Some excess proceeds are 200 grand sometimes. 200 grand for filling out two pieces of paper. So not that I'm saying that they're wrong, but you can still make a lot of money doing that. You just have to, quote unquote, buy their rights. Now, with buying their rights, you might see they owe 200 and it bid to 240, right? That same 40 grand. But you got to remember, so you need to check the mortgage, because just because the bank opened it at 200 doesn't mean they're owed 200, right? They can do a specified bid. Let's just say their mortgage amount was 230, and they opened at 200, did a specified bid, and it bid to 240. Well, they're still owed whatever. If they're owed 230, they're owed 230, and then there's only a $10,000 deposit. And then also all junior lien holders have a right to make that same request. So we were talking about John's working on a deal that has a modification agreement, and he says, well, the people owe 285. And I'm like, well, they just originated their mortgage 3 years ago at 335. Like, how many people actually pay down their mortgage $50,000 in 3 years? And he's like, and they've been in forbearance. And so who pays down their mortgage in 3 years and has been in forbearance? And I was like, I think what they did is they took the back payments and all that, and they stuck it behind the first mortgage. So, because John's like, hey, their payoff's 285. I'm like, I would look for a second lien position, because I don't think their mortgage is 285. I think there's a second lien holder there. And so that being said, when we get the title report, we will find out if there's a second lien holder. So if you are buying these, understand that everybody that's owed money, the first, the second, the pool loan, if there's a judgment from back, I went brain dead, alimony or child support, stuff like that, they can also make a claim. So just understanding, so you would want to get a title report before you'd actually make a bid to buy somebody, so you can actually see, who's owed the money. But
and the guys and gals that are following the auction down there, Chris, we all know that stuff before we bid on our homes for the most part, right?
Yeah.
So it's just part of your business. And so if there's IRS or something like that hanging around, you know about it.
Yeah.
And so at this point, it's just a little side business. You're there watching every house go up and over its price in a frenzy. And when that happens, there's money waiting for someone out there. So it's a really a nice little side hustle, and you just have a system for it.
Yeah. And so to kind of close out the series, this is our part 4, but we talked about the pre-foreclosure. So if you're actually doing the pre-foreclosure business, you're working with them, you've already talked to them 2 or 3 times. You try to hopefully counsel them like, hey, don't let it get to the steps. Don't let it get, obviously at some times, they just bury their head in the sand. It gets to the steps, but you've already talked to them 2 or 3 times, whatever. And you say, hey, well, you let it get there, but hey, you're also owed some money. Maybe I can help you here. So, but yeah, so just another little side business. There are some people there are definitely people out there that do this business regularly. It's a pretty cool little system. So like I said, you can just get the $2,500 fee, or you can buy their note, and that's just kind of the process. And then this works in not just Arizona, it works. And actually, if you want to know if you just want to go do this on a large scale, there are websites out there that just keep track of all the different counties and who's owed what. And as a matter of fact, you want to know how lazy I am? I'm going to admit how lazy I am. I am due $3,200, and I've been due $3,200 for probably 3 years, and I'm just too busy to go fill out the dumb paperwork. But I had a check from Fidelity Title that went to the property address. I think I checked the box. It said, hey, here's my mailing address. It went to the address of the house, never got cashed. Fidelity Title held it for 6 months. And just like everything, they're not allowed to just keep my money. So what they did is they sent it to the county. So this was, so not just foreclosures get deposited at the county, but anything that's excess money that's due you and they didn't know how to get a hold of you or whatever, the money sits at the title company. And I have $3,200 from a closing. I don't even remember the address that got deposited from Fidelity Title to the county. And I just need to fill out the paperwork and get my money back. So
you do. Well, Chris, I've enjoyed this sharing with you. There's just so much opportunity around foreclosure. Get good at part of this, and there's other things that you can do right alongside of this business. I think we've proven that. So there are little tricks everywhere. And here's another trick that I just talked to John about because we were on the phone before this. Little trick. He is actually working on we talked about that. I think there's a second on a modification agreement. If you do buy a house that has that second with the modification agreement, and as foreclosures grow and all that kind of stuff, the bank that actually gives that second loan actually gets the money for free to do the loan. So they do the loan. Maybe they're behind on payments, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they do their modification agreement. And in his instance, they owed $335. He says they now have their payment that says $285. Well, that 40, 50 grand, and how they made that $285 is what happens is the bank goes, okay, give me your income. What do you actually qualify now for? Okay, you don't qualify for the $335 anymore. You qualify for the $285, and they do the modification agreement. So then they put the rest of the money on the back end that doesn't need a payment, but does need to be paid off as a second mortgage. Well, that second mortgage company gets given the money from the government. So I told John when he gets this one under contract, go ahead and reach out to that second mortgage. These people are behind in payments because they're not in foreclosure yet, but they're behind in payments. And I told John, hey,
reach out to that second mortgage and offer them 20 cents on the dollar, because a lot of times they'll take it. So if he gets that erased, the payoff will be a lot less, and he can negotiate down even further. So just another little trick out there.
Another reason we like Chris.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the end of our foreclosure series. If you missed episode 1, 2, or 3, they are down below on the Facebook group, or go to my YouTube channel, which is Just for Flips on YouTube, and you can watch episode 1, 2, and 3. And thanks for joining us. See you.
Thanks, Chris.